When it comes to food and drug compliance, we rely on the Food and Drug Administration to give their stamp of approval on goods that we deem safe for consumers. But how do distributors and manufacturers know that their products will be up to par with the FDA's requirements prior to an inspection? That's where FDA Specialist comes in.
My name is Richard Chiang. I'm the founder and CEO of FDA Specialist. We're a consulting firm that assists companies in complying with FDA's laws and regulations. I formed my company back in 2016 after having worked for FDA for nearly 14 years. I became a consultant because I found that there was a real need for it by the industry. Back when I worked for FDA, unfortunately, we didn't have the time and the resources to provide the industry the guidance and help they needed, which is too bad because most of the time, most companies want to comply. Very few companies set out to intentionally circumvent or violate regulations. So as a consultant, I feel that I'm in the best possible position to be able to provide that help and guidance to the industry.
Regulation is an important part of every industry, and helping businesses understand whether they're compliant or not prior to an inspection is what makes a company like FDA Specialist so significant.
If there's one take-home message I hope the viewers do derive from this segment, it's to keep regulatory compliance in mind at the beginning and throughout your operations, and not to simply put it off at the end, assuming that the regulatory issues will address themselves. One of the biggest mistakes companies make is they're so focused on the marketing, the selling, that they don't keep the regulatory issues in mind, and then they find out a little too late that they can't do the things they wanted to do or have to do it in a way that's different than the way they intended. FDA Specialist is uniquely qualified to assist the industry because we worked at most of the major levels or components of the agency. We have boots on the ground experience in which we can give companies practical advice on how to prepare for FDA inspections. We worked at the headquarters level where policy and rulemaking occurs. So having that comprehensive, detailed understanding of FDA's processes really helps us to provide our clients with solutions to obtain the best possible outcomes. I myself started off as an FDA field investigator, meaning I was one of the persons that would go to the factories and actually inspect facility operations, and I collected samples for FDA lab testing. We reviewed imported shipments to determine what products could come into the country. So we have that real boots on the ground kind of experience to be able to assist our clients, because not only is it a matter of simply understanding the requirements, it's also understanding what investigators look for, what are their preferences. It's a matter of being able to help our clients be able to facilitate the inspection so they go as smoothly and quickly and as painlessly as possible.
Since we're discussing staying in line with FDA requirements, it's important to know what some of those requirements are to better understand how FDA Specialist helps keep companies on track.
Well, FDA's requirements vary depending on the regulated commodity type. But generally the requirements are, of course, the products must be safe for the consumer, they should be effective, the labeling should be truthful and not misleading, they should bear the appropriate information so that consumers can make an educated decision about whether they should use your product, and if necessary, how to use your product correctly. And of course, products should be manufactured under sanitary, safe, and hygienic conditions to ensure that they are not contaminated by filth or harmful substances. And there are several actions FDA can take against companies, products, and individuals for violating FDA's regulations. For example, FDA can issue warning letters to companies. They can have their products seized by court order, and they could also have the courts order an injunction against the firm, meaning that the courts will order them to cease certain operations. And they can even have individuals criminally prosecuted if they deem them to have committed a prohibited act.
The FDA regulates more than just food and drugs. Let's talk about some of the other areas the FDA oversees.
Well, the name Food and Drug Administration can be confusing. because FDA regulates far more than just foods and drugs. FDA regulates cosmetics, medical devices, biologics such as vaccines, electronic products that emit radiation, and even tobacco products. So one of the first steps a company may need to make is to determine whether FDA regulates a product. And that may not be as easy as it may first sound. For example, FDA regulates some foods, but the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA, regulates other foods. So one of the first steps, again, is to ensure which agency regulates your product so you can determine what the requirements are.
So if you have a business that requires FDA approval, let FDA Specialist help to make sure you don't have any issues with the approval process.
I'll circle back to the take-home message I mentioned earlier, which is to keep regulatory compliance in mind at the beginning and throughout your operations to avoid any possible costly interruptions to your business.
For more information about FDA Specialist, visit their website at fdaspecialist.com. And of course, visit our website at insidetheblueprint.com.